All right. So the user who can hear me, possibly something on your device, you want to check that out. Perfect. So a whole lot of users said I'm audible. Good. That's great. So when we create a structure like this in Martingale, we're saying, all right, we believe the market is going to go up, buy the charts, but there are several reasons why the market might not go up. And number one is also FA, which could imply market news like the one we had from last week with Midgars, the one with Silvergate, the one with Feds, the one with Binance. All of those different factors that could make a market not to go as it should go. Now, all right. So when we create all of these factors, our goal with Martingale is how do we cover up for these factors, for this drawdown, which is why we have things like the Martingale calculator that says, okay, if the market doesn't go in our direction and this decides to happen, the Martingale structure gives us a setup that can cover up for that when it happens. So should you see your account in red when you take a trade? Yes, a lot of time that is going to happen. But what that means is for the Martingale structure that we've created, you're only getting more entries into the market. So when we create the Martingale structure, for example, if I go over here to the Martingale calculator and I say, I want to do a $5,000 capital on a 29% movement on 3 average, whatever setup you're using. And it gives me this whole setup. What this means is when you see the Martingale ratio over here, what this means is if we go back to the chart, the Martingale calculator takes into consideration this drawdown that you're creating a setup for. And then it decides, okay, within this drawdown, I'm going to create setting buy. You can see over here, Martingale reentry as 9. Those represent the number of buy or number of entries your bot is going to take. So back to the chart, it says, okay, I'm going to buy at this point. If the market does drop again, I'm going to buy at this point. What if it goes down again? I'm going to buy more at this point to cover up for this drawdown. Now, during this series of buy, what is happening is you're getting in more money into the market from your total allocated capital, which means if the market does start going in your direction, you'll be making a whole lot of profit. So when you do see your accounts in red, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with it. It doesn't mean that there's any problem with the account. It just simply means that the market is drawing down, but your Martingale calculator already created a structure for it, as against regular traditional trading that just put your money in here and you get liquidated in the next few minutes, because that's how the market works. So when you do see that, don't fright, do not be worried. This is the structure. Now, a whole lot of times the market will not draw down like we've seen in our trade the past 2 weeks before this news of Silvergate and Midgars. A lot of time the market would not draw down, right? And you just keep taking profit. And we did see all of those in our trade the past weeks until this news where we're not having drawdown. And what drawdown does is it gives us much more entries. So you should not be worried at all when you feel like your setup is showing red. It simply means your bot is running and is taking in more entries. All right, I hope that is absolutely clear for those users. Now, next is the other sets of users who also want the market to just go like instantly. So you create a setup like the setup has not taken profit. One thing to be clear about, when you do a setup like we did for BTC and we did for EOS and the rest of them, that the markets could also be stagnant, which is why we get back every day to review the setup. to ask ourselves, should we continue in the setup? Should we create fresh setup? And the rest, or do we hold on to those setups? So all of the movement of your setup is totally dependent on the market. If the market decides to move, that's great. Now we've seen for the past couple days, past 3 days, the market has been so much stagnant apart from other assets that are just dumping. So to be very, very clear about that, if you do have your setup running, it might not produce the profit instantly. It's all depending on the market. The market needs to move, and the market is not controlled literally by anyone. So what we do is give you the best setup that makes the best level of profits. Now back to the market. What is the market doing right now, and how is all of our setups doing? Now, I did say yesterday that our major goal is to ensure that the dollar cap does not leave our zone, and we started seeing that happening over here. If you were yesterday, we did talk about this to say that if the dollar cap doesn't leave the zone, our setups are still totally safe. Now, we started seeing that happening, but it's not fully bullish yet. Out of the zone, it's still just choppy wicks. So we will not fully rely on that, which means that it could also break downward into our zone. So that is what we're still watching for. Now the question will be, why is the market static? Why is the market not moving? And I did explain that about the mid-Gauss, if you followed that. So mid-Gauss was one of the first original crypto exchange. Every person who traded crypto in the early days or traded on that exchange until the hack and the whole court processes. Now, right now, on the 10th to 12th, everyone who has assets, major creditors in mid-Gauss are going to be receiving back their Bitcoin. They're about over 130,000 Bitcoin. You can put that in your calculator to see how much that is. So the whole market is still wondering when these guys get their Bitcoin, are they going to sell off or are they going to hold? So when you see the markets not moving, Bitcoin is just static, none of the markets are moving, is everybody's waiting what is going to happen from the 10th till the 12th. So on the 10th, we might see a large price movement happening. One way, either the market breaks down because these guys are choosing to sell, or the other way is that a lot of these institutional traders or companies that has bought a lot of those Bitcoins from those creditors will choose to hold it for a higher price movement. So if they do hold that, we're going to see price shooting up really, really fast. Now, this is why I do say that you don't want to have a short position. I'm going to show you. If we go over to liquidation, I'm going to put this down. Let's see. Okay, so on my screen, you can see different position size levels and liquidation levels of several traders in several major exchanges. So you can see over here at this height, we have over $350 million between 21,000 and 26,000 of BTC that has a potential of liquidation. Now you can see that a lot of the others are just around the circle of 21 to 23,000. So, and you have a major part here in the 22,000 zone. So this gives you a clue why BTC is not moving forward, is not moving downward, because all of the market position, a large part of it is only at the zone between 21 to $23,000. So what we're going to see is the market has to beat one of these zones. And if it does beat zone downward, meaning these guys decide to sell and the market does break fully outside 21,000, and then we could see the dump that we have in our chart over here. If you go to the BTC charts, okay, so we do have the first movement over here. Okay, I'm going to make that a little bit smaller so we can see the price. All right. Okay, I'm going to take this off. So we do have the first zone happening at $21,200 thereabout here. So if we go back to this liquidation level, we're going to see that is the point where a lot of orders are. So you see a lot of buy orders and also a lot of sell orders happening around here. So if the market does break out of these orders into 21,200, then we could see a further decline with Bitcoin into the 18,000 levels because there are not so much orders holding the between 21 to 18,000 levels. I trust you're all following me. If you are, you could just say that in the chat. That would be amazing. All right. So head back to this. If this does happen, we're going to see BTC breaking below 21 and between 21 to around 18,000. There are not so much levels there. So the market will have a free fall that could happen. So we could just see a free fall into 18,000 and then the market hits a major support and does bounce forward. Now, if the market doesn't break downward and it's able to break above 23,000, what we're going to see is after eating up the orders in 23,000, a lot of short positions here are going to be liquidated here. The market has a free flow. There's no order happening over here. So the market has a free flow to go upward up to 24,000. And in 24,000, we have very tiny position size happening here, which simply means Bitcoin has a free flow up until 26,000. Then we start seeing some new resistance. So if that does happen, we're going to be clearing a lot of orders, filling here over right now, over 350 million orders is in the market right now, just within 21 to 26,000 dollars. So if we head back into our charts, we see how we mapped out those zones clearly. This first zone over here of 21,200, and Bitcoin is still holding really strong. Not breaking that. If it does break that, then we could see this free fall. Now, amazingly, we've already covered up for the largest fall of BTC. So what does this mean? If this does happen and you see your account on red, your trade is still secured. When BTC does a little bit bounce forward, you'll be making a larger profit. So what this means is we just accumulated a lot of BTC position into the next zone. So it's nothing for you to be worried about. It's nothing to send in questions about. When you see that, you should be excited. I'm super excited when I see my orders dropping in, then the market is just taking profit on my first entry. So that's it on BTC, and we see what will happen. And this is expected to happen between 10th, which is in 2 days time, and 12th. So by 10th, we'll have a better clarity of where the market will be going. It will be super clear because a lot of market decisions already will be made. So we still keep our orders there to accumulate a whole lot of position. And if this doesn't break, you're going to see a free upward movement of BTC super fast. A lot of short positions are going to be liquidated if that does happen. So back to a trade, we still do have this BTC trade over here. It has not closed, it's stagnant. You can see BTC is just doing $20,000, $18, $20,000, $19. Very slow. Everybody is waiting for the 10th, what is going to happen. Now, another old trade that some users are still on is still this setup that was done with a long time ago. But yeah, some users are still there. I reckon there are about only 20 users. So I'm committed to helping those users who are on this trade to get out of it. Now, I did say that what you can do if you're still on the ZEM trade is the ZEM levels for our setup is around here. That keeps them, I'm going to put this down, that keeps them at 0.035. Now, that's a pretty close zone from where it is right now. They're about 10% zone. So that's not so good. Now, what you want to do if you're on this setup, for those, there are about 20 users, if you're on this Zoom, and if you're not, you want to make sure you share this to anyone who you know is on that setup that took it late after the setup was done. So what you want to do is you want to hedge this capital. By hedge, I don't mean open a new trade. I mean, if you created $100, for example, position side, you want to put in $200 capital, for example, into your exchange and go to sleep. That will be fine. You don't want to open a new trade. You just want to leave that capital there as a full capital to cover up for this price movement if that does happen. Now, I do reckon that if BTC does move to this zone of 21,200, we're going to have them at this same zone 100%. So you want to make sure you're doing that. Else you want to exit the trade. But if you don't and you want to take the profit of the trade, that is what you have to do. Now, next users, I'm going to go through also the chat. So if you do have questions, you can keep sending that in. I see a whole lot of questions already. Someone said, do you mean we shouldn't panic if our accounts are on red? So like I said, the structure of the martingale covers up for when the account is on red. And also, I've seen users who use words like massive floating loss. It's quite funny. For example, in the EOS setup, if I check that right away, EOS setup is about 3% drawdown. I'm just going to confirm that again. EOS correct right now is at 6% drawdown. That is not a massive floating loss. That is a liquidation for traders who don't use Tafabot, but you're just 6% away. And 6%, I mean, is not 6% away from EOS price. You're just 6% in your capital, means you are there about 1 to 2% away from EOS price. And that is something super unique. You need to understand what it means that you're in a trade and you're 1% away from the price entry. That is something really beautiful. So if your account is in red, that means you've taken that trade. You're possibly in second or third entry, like mine is in the second entry, and means your bot has not even used up to 10% of your capital. So that's something interesting. You don't have 10% of your capital in the market yet for EOS. So if you created $5,000 position side like I do, I only have there about $300 in EOS. That is really funny. So you don't have 10% of your capital in EOS at all. So there is zero fear as it relates to your EOS trade. And there's also no massive loss because you're not losing 1% of your capital at all. And the same applies to YFI. They are pretty doing the same thing. And we also have the BTC trade. So all of our trade are super secure, super set up from BTC to EOS to YFI. And even the best of them is the DOGE setup. DOGE is less than 0.01% from DOGE price. It simply means if DOGE goes 0.2%, you are in profit. That is something to be excited about. And let me show you what a 0.2% market movement is. So if you look at my screen, I'm just going to draw a 0.2%. So you really do understand how tiny that is. This is a 0.6. I'm going to put that. This is, you see how tiny that is? This is a 0.6, not even 0.2. So this movement is all you're looking at to be in profits. I want you to understand that. this is all you're looking at to be in profit. So your trade is super amazing, totally super amazing. So I hope that is clear on the EOS, the BTC, the YFI trade. Okay, so let's also look at the next set of traders on the Lena setup. Like myself, I'm still super on Lena. Now, if you're on the Lena setup, what has happened on Lena is you have 50% of your entry right now into Lena. I did create 100,000 position size in Lena, and I have 50,000 already in. So if you're on this trade, you only have half your capital yet in the market, because we covered up for Lena going to the lowest possible level. So if you're on that trade, your trade is still super fine, super secure. If the market does drop to this level, you have more entries in, and in 1% price movement, you're making a large profit. So this is what I do hope that the market do. I'm really not expecting that the market makes a bounce from here. If you do, you're going to have only 2 of your entries in the market. I really do hope that the market makes a drawdown into this zone over here. So the market makes a drawdown into this zone over here. Now, the only users that should ever be concerned is the few users that are on the ZEM trade that was concluded over a week ago. So if you're on this trade, like I already explained to you what to do. Aside from that, my hopes is that we get in more entry. I want you to picture the level of profit that is going to happen with all your entries in at this whole point, and the market makes even a 1% movement. You're going to be the best trader in the market when everybody's shouting liquidated. You're taking a massive amount of profit, and I'm super glad to see what you're going to do with all of those profits that we're going to take from such market movements. We have a lot of person in the waiting room. All right. So we do have that on Lena. So I've explained there's literally nothing you want to do on that trade. Just like I've said, this is still a super, super amazing trade. Then we have the EOS. This is our setup for EOS. So for those who, when a user says massive loss, I had to ask, what do you mean by massive loss? 1%. So that is not even a price movement at all. So this is our setup we took for EOS. And from our setup, EOS has only done a 4% movement. That is interesting. Now, if your entries are into EOS, you are only there about 1% away from EOS price. Now, that is interesting because our average price is there about here. So what we should be hoping that EOS does is to come lower to this first level. Remember, we're covering for the last level, so we still have a lengthy entry. What we hope EOS does is to come onto this level to give us more money in the market. More money in the market means much more profit. So if the EOS moves even 1%, you're having skyrocketing profits than the guy who was taking tiny bit of profit from one entry for the past 3 days. You're going to make more profit than that person. And we're going to see that happen. And a lot of you are going to be super excited about that. Then we also have 4 YFI. Interesting. So this is one of our setup that is almost approaching the first zone. Remember, we're also covering for the largest zone for YFI. So this is one setup that is covering the first zone already. It's almost there. And we have there about 3 to 4 entries in, and we still have a long way to go. And we still have a long way to go with that entry. So what I do hope is that this also gives us more money into the market for a super amazing profits. Now, one of our best setup that we have since last week has been DOGE. You can see DOGE is just rolling and floating into our zone. And if you are on DOGE, you're just less than 0.5% right now away from the market price. So that is something super beautiful. Now, I do not see Doge breaking further, but if it does, that is something good, but I do not see it breaking further. What I see is that Doge become one of the first markets to really give us a lot of profits. I see a lot of questions, and I'm going to jump into that again. So for all the users who are just joining us for the first time, we're still going to be posting this setup. Now, the question is, why are we sticking with this setup? Now, if you go through the whole market, you're going to find a lot of coins that are dumping 20%, 30%. There are only few markets that has been holding the grounds since the whole dump started. One of them is EOS, next is YFI, the other is BTC, and the next one is DOGE. So all of these setups, these are the reasons why we're sticking with these coins. They are super stable, they are working super perfectly, and our setup for them are still valid. So we're still going to be sending this setup today to say this is the setup we still want to stick with for the maximum profit. Now, if you look at the market, you're going to see a lot of altcoins are already beginning to pick up. One of them is SROP. SROP is currently in a super bullish move. We are seeing SHIB moving. We are seeing SLM. We're seeing Magic, and a lot of altcoins are already responding to the market movement. Now, if we do go over to the USDT flow, like I told you, it's still a faded week, means we have a large chance of the market breaking downward into the zone, causing money to move directly into altcoin, which is currently in a big support. So that's why you see a lot of altcoin already responding and moving forward. Now, of course, BTC is still going to be stagnant, and the reason for that is the coins that are going to be released are BTC to meet God's creditor. Of course, altcoins are declining because if BTC does decline, altcoins will decline. But originally, altcoins are going to be among the first to start going bullish before BTC. So that's why we do have a lot of altcoin setup and one BTC setup. Okay. I'll jump into a few of the questions before we continue. So someone said, what do you mean by little drawdown, but our Binance is showing minus 20? Perfect. Now, I'll answer that for you. Now, what that means, if, for example, you are in a 10S leverage on BTC, for example, and you're 2% away from BTC price movements. And I did show you what I'm going to show you again. What is 2% price movement? For example, this is the current price of ZEM. So I'm going to show you what 2% price movement is. This is 2% price movement. I'm going to zoom in. It's really hard to capture that because it's so tiny. So this is 2.2. So all the market needs to do is to move to this point for you to be in profit. Okay, so that is something unique. Now, when you are in a 10S leverage, like I said, in leverage, your profits or percentage price movement is multiplied by the leverage. So on your exchange, it's going to be showing you 20% because you are in a 10S leverage. Now, also, it is only 20% of your entry, like I explained. In EOS setup, we only have less than, I'm going to confirm now, less than 5% of our capital in the market. So picture this, you have $5,000 capital, only $250 is in the market. So when it's showing you 20% for those on a 10S, it simply means you are in deficit of about $25 out of $5,000. So when I say that is tiny, that is less than 1%. There's 1% thereabouts of your entry. So there's nothing to be worried about. That's what it means. So when you see that large percentage on your exchange, is a reflection of the leverage that you're in. And also it is not completely accurate because you only have 5% of your capital in the market. All right. I'm still jumping into a lot of questions. Someone said, I'm following and it's becoming much more clear. I am glad. The other user asking, should you restart your EOS? Yes, you can join the EOS trade. Don't forget, you don't want to make the wrong stop loss calculation on EOS or any of the coins like I explained. You don't want to say a 5% move when you are in a 5S leverage. That automatically will invalidate your trade. So I did explain that last time, so you can still jump on that trade. Okay, I'm going to jump into more questions. Someone said, out of 7 trades, 4 of his trade has totally completed, and he only has 3 positions running. He wants more, so that's amazing. That you're taking the profits already. We're going to be giving more trades, but like I said, we want to stick with this most secure trade for now up until the 10th, where we're going to have a bigger, massive setup into the market, because the market is going to be clearer after all of this position over here. Like I showed you, this price movement are a little bit clear. So we're going to be seeing a much more setup after then. For the user, can you still enter DOGE? Yes, you can jump into DOGE. I'm going to share the DOGE setup again into the group. So if you want to join that, you can still join the DOGE setup. So another user, can you have the DOGE setup? We're going to send it into the setup group. If you're not yet in the group, you want to join right away, we're going to send the DOGE setup into the setup group right after this call. Perfect. Flora, that is an interesting question. Will Jerome's Powell speech affect the crypto market negatively? Yes, we have seen a lot of time that Fed raising interest rate and the rest always does affect S&P 500, and a lot of time Bitcoin also follows the chart system of S&P. So if S&P is declining, we could also see a little bit decline into Bitcoin. But other times, Bitcoin has also defied the chart of S&P. So somehow it might, somehow also it might not. Again, we are in the most secured setup in those 3 markets that we are, and we still have nothing to be bothered about any of the news that they are going to be sending in about interest hike or whatever. Perfect. Someone said is EOS is on 70 PNL, setup is for $1,000. Amazing. So is that correct? Please let me know what leverage you're on. If you are on a 5S leverage, like I do hope you're on, based on our setup, we said the maximum leverage is 5. If you are on a 5S leverage, which I don't really think you are on, because my EOS for $5,000 is on $12 deficit. So you should be much more less, except your heightened leverage way over 10S. And please, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be over leveraged at all. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to clarify something before we call it a day, and that is the issue of stop loss. So I've received a lot of concerns of traders who don't know the right stop loss, and they are getting kicked out of the trade. So we're going to go to that again on all of this setup. Now, once again, I'm going to emphasize, if you are on any of this setup using every of the recommended setting, nothing extra, something lower, yes, means you can go 3S, you can go 1S, but nothing extra than the setup we've given over here. If you're on any of the setups at all, what you want to place as your stop loss in the stop loss part should be nothing less than 20. Ideally, I would say you want to go 30 over there. Now, what does that mean? For a guy who is on a 1S leverage, that is in reality very, very invalid, because that will never happen based on your setup, but we create that for security. Now, for a guy who is on a 5S leverage or more, that is created to just give you security if the market does go really so bad, to get you out of the trade. All right, so you don't want to go put 1% or 5 or 2 there. It's going to kill your trade because already the market 1% movement is literally nothing, 2 is nothing. So if you have this setup at all, you want to make sure that if you're using conservative settings and on leverage, you don't have anything less than 20 over there. Ideally, you should have 30 over there to give your trade enough of space. Now, the question is, why? And I'm going to show you again in the chart. Let's take, for instance, that you are on the BTC trade that we're covering a 29% movement for BTC. If this does happen, 29%, you're going to be get about 3% away from BTC price. And if you are on a 5S leverage, that would be 3 multiplied by 5, that would be 15. So this is why you want to keep 20 over there, which means after Bitcoin is done, if this ever does happen, which we don't see it happening, if this ever does happen, after BTC is done, it will take BTC to want to dump further outside this zone for your stop loss to hit. If the zone is covered up to the last end, you have no business with the stop loss. So emphasis again, if you took any of this trade, don't get stopped out, and you're on a 5S leverage, you want to make sure your stop loss there is nothing less than 20. Less than 20, not more than 30. And once again, to state that if you are on a 1S or a 2S, what this means, if Bitcoin goes 29% downward, you will only be about 3% away, which simply means Bitcoin would need to go to about $10,000 for your stop loss to hit. So that is not what we're seeing in the market from this point. Bitcoin will need to go $10,000 dump. So that is not envisioned at all. So the stop loss is just to create security. We don't see that hitting, but if you are on leverage, it is a must for you. Someone said I use 15 on Wi-Fi. No, that is not correct. If we do check our Wi-Fi setup, we're covering a 33% movement. On a 5S, you're also going to be about 4% from the price. Multiplied by your leverage, you already be at 20. So if you are on the 5S and we're covering the largest points, we don't see that happen. But if that does happen outside this zone, you want to place a 30%. So when this zone reaches and the market doesn't move forward, it cuts your trade out. Okay, so much all in profits. That is there any way I can edit my stop loss after copying a trade? I don't know why you're copying a trade or who you're copying. You have to disconnect from that trade. If you are copying a trade, it simply means you're not on this setup, except the person you're copying is using the setup we're giving. So the same things that I said here will not apply to you because I don't know the leverage the person you're copying is using. So the stop loss is depending on the leverage. So I cannot give you a stop loss on that. But if the person is using the same level of stop loss, you will need to disconnect from that trade to update the stop loss again because that is entered at the point of copying. If you're using 4S leverage, do let me know what is your stop loss on a 4S, and it could just be much more clearer. All right, amazing. So I guess it's very, very clear how secured our setups are, how we really do have nothing to worry about. And I did give a solution for Zem traders, and also Lena traders really don't have anything to do. There's no worries there. And we said our setup for EOS, YFI, DOGE still stands. And if you're not in any of those setups, you want to take those setups. So for the users that is in 4S on a 14%, let's see, 4S on a 14%. That is okay, but that is quite close. But yes, that also will suffice. So you can leave that. You don't need to disconnect. All right, I guess we've answered a whole lot of feedback. If you do have more, you want to send that into the group. I just edited my stop loss to 30 and running on Wi-Fi. I hope that won't affect my setting. Amazing. No, that does not affect your settings. These other traders, 1 minute, I'm going to try to view your image uploaded. It's quite very, very tiny in the charts. Let me see. It's quite tiny in the chart. I'm going to try to see how to view that. Let's see. All right, for that user, I'm still loading your image you sent. Okay, Wi-Fi on 3. And we have mask, we have EOS. Please, I want to trust you do have a lot of open position in the image you sent, BTC, EOS, Max, Wi-Fi. I want to trust for all of these positions that you opened, you did leave the capital for those positions individually, and you're not sharing the same capital among every of those positions. If you're not, then you're totally okay. That is fine. But you want to make sure you're not sharing the same capital amongst every of those positions. And that is totally fine. All right. All right, guys. So that's going to be it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to view more what the market is doing. And on the 10th, we're going to have better clarity as to what next the market will be looking at after we have the news of Gas. Amazing. DOGE setup, please. I'm going to send that into the group. For Limena, your leverage is 5, stop loss is 20. That is okay. That is fine for now. All right. DOGE setup, I'm going to send that into the group. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. You want to join the Telegram channel, and we're going to continue the conversation over there in the channel. Let's go make some much profit in the market. Catch ya.